845, Varsity man up. It's game time, everybody stand up. From my town to yours, we ready for sure. From the field to the court, yeah, we ready for war. This is
Justin Rodriguez here with another edition of the Varsity 845 Football Podcast with my co-host and good friend Kevin Gleason. Kevin, always a pleasure.
My pleasure, Justin. Good to see you again.
Well, last week we're gonna recap last week real fast, and then we'll talk about this week's big games. And again, as they call in the business, it's a short week with most of the games being played on Thursday. So of course we have to start last week. Monroe-Woodbury 27, Newburgh 21. The game of the year so far, most anticipated. It almost always is. So what was your take on that game? Monroe survives. Academy Field gets out of Newburgh with a much big win.
Yeah, it seems like a terrific game. You were there. I went by your account, and one of the things that jumped out at me was Monroe with 2:15 left on their own 40 going for a 4th and 1, which is probably what you'd expect Monroe to do, being a type of team that they are, that they have utmost confidence in their offense gaining a yard. And at that point, they weren't going to turn it over to Newburgh on a punt and give Newburgh a chance to score a game-winning touchdown. But, it was also very impressive and a bit of a gamble, I thought, because if they don't get that, if something happens, bad snap, loss of a yard, kid runs into another kid on the line or something, and Newburgh takes over at the 40 with a short field to go, then there's probably a decent chance they're going to go.
Oh, they would have lost, I think, Monroe, if they didn't convert that, because Aaron Forbes, 226 yards, 3 touchdowns. He was just getting hotter and hotter, so he would have. They had to keep the ball away from him, even punting it. And like I said, they made it. They called the play. O'Malley made the play, but again, Forbes, 226 yards, 3 touchdowns. Should we just give him the Heisman Trophy now?
Well, one other point on that, too, is, if you see any great team, whether it's a high school team, an NFL team, a college team, in that same situation, 9 times out of 10, that coach will go for it, in their own 40. Because I know I've seen Belichick do it a million times with Patriots, go for that, and decide not to give it back to the other team. And, it's just funny that you see all the good teams do that, and it was probably no surprise that when you were there watching that Monroe did it.
Well, one of the storylines of the game is that your old friend, the Turf Monster, made an appearance there. You had the opening kickoff where it kind of got off the turf. Newburgh couldn't handle it. Monroe pounced on it, I think on the 29 of Newburgh, scored a touchdown rather quickly. You had a big punt that seemed like it was going to bounce out of bounds. It took a weird hop. Brandon Lewis picks it up. A big punt return sets up a touchdown. And then another touchdown was set up when Monroe punted it, and it bounced off a Newburgh player. And Monroe got it at the 16 of Newburgh and scored another touchdown. Now, the way I see it is, hey, those are some tough breaks, but I'm not going to take anything away from Monroe. They got the win. You make breaks, you get breaks, and you got to take advantage of them. If you don't, you have to, man up. And but as far as that goes, like I said, Monroe deserves the win. But if I'm Newburgh, I wouldn't feel too bad about this loss. Hey, what would you say to those players? 1, we spotted them 21 points. 2, we didn't have one of our best players, Anthony DeBose. And 3, we should get a rematch. And like I said, so I really wouldn't feel bad if I was Newburgh.
Yeah, let me ask you. I mean, you put those teams on a field for say 10 times. Are they that even? They're going to win 5 apiece, do you think? Where do you think they're at right now?
I think it's that close.
It's going to set up for a beautiful Section 9 title game. I hate to already discount everybody else in AA. But if these two teams, are certainly the favorites to make it, it sounds like it's setting up for a terrific game.
Yeah, and like I said, I know I've talked a lot about Forbes, but just the way he runs, 226 yards, and like I said, a lot of times, when you grab a hold of a player's foot, you're trying to take him down. It was almost like Monroe defenders; they were holding on for dear life, because if he got away, he was probably going to score some dazzling runs. He was also punting for the team. So he does a lot of things for that team. But again, hey, gutsy win for Monroe, big win in the standings, and they have Kingston this week. So obviously, we would predict a Monroe win there. Another big win, actually, Middletown beat Kingston.
Sure.
So if Middletown can beat Pine Bush this week, next week, the following week, that would be October 10th. It would set up Monroe at 4-1, 2-0. Middletown 4-1, 2-0. That's the biggest game Middletown would have played
Years.
Probably almost 20 years. So we'll talk about that a little later.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly jumping ahead because we're discounting Pine Bush, and if Pine Bush can just start to play a little better defense and cut down on the mistakes, Pine Bush can beat almost anybody. So we can't assume they're going to beat Pine Bush. Pine Bush has to get it together, though. We mentioned talking earlier about how Pine Bush committed a lot of mistakes against Warwick, or Pine Bush, they ran for over 400 yards, I think it was, and they just committed too many mistakes.
Yeah, they had Marcus Barnes at quarterback. He went for like 180 yards, so that'll be interesting. And then on Middletown side, they had the secret weapon, Jordan Bryan, first start, over 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. So we'll get back to that game when we look at the next week's games. Roosevelt 14, Washingtonville 7. A little bit of a surprise, but Roosevelt, kind of a run-based offense, no frills, and they're 4-0, getting the job done. The other big game in Class AA Division II, the division of death, if you will. Minisink 47, VC 29. I was there on Friday night. Minisink was up 23 in the first half. Back comes VC like they always do, up 22-20 at halftime, and then Minisink. I thought what Minisink did, they went back to their bread and butter a little, running the ball. I think they might have gotten away from that a little again. I'm not going to play coach here, but that's a big win for Minisink. Joe Sessa with 4 touchdowns. Deontay Moore running hard. Matt Carosella running the offense perfectly, and of course the big bad offensive line getting the job done for Minisink.
Yeah, the game that jumped out at me was the Roosevelt-Washingtonville game. I talked to Don Clark a little bit on the phone, and as in his words, it was kind of an uneventful game. It sounded like there weren't a lot of opportunities there, but Washingtonville squashed a couple. Washingtonville just ran out of time in the final minute drive, got down to deep into Roosevelt territory, and the clock just ran out. But I was a little surprised. I thought Washingtonville would win that game, but Roosevelt's unbeaten. They're not obviously a quality team. Washingtonville has to start to turn things around here as they get into the meat of the schedule.
Well, Minisink and Washingtonville will face off this week. We'll get into that a little later. As far as some other games, Cornwall 63, Goshen 6, Marlboro in a rematch of last year's Class B championship. It wasn't so much of a game. Marlboro 52, Rondout 7. That's a Class B Division 1 game, so that's a big deal. Liberty beat Tri-Valley 55-13 for a big Class C win. There were some other big games. Manor 19, Eldred 12. That gives Manor a chance to face off for Chester in the Class D championship. And Chester beat Pine Plains 48-0. Vinny Alloy, 5 touchdowns on 6 attempts.
Yeah, he's pretty productive, this Vinny Alloy. Unbelievable. Again, the year that kid's coming off of, and it looks like he's just taking up where he left off last season.
Yep, and very efficient. New Paltz beats Red Hook 25-14. Highland 31 over perhaps the class of Class C. Millbrook 31-30 on that last-minute field goal. Don't forget about Sullivan West, which picked up a forfeit win last week to go 4-0. What did you think of Walk-Hill 33, Saugerties 7?
Well, I feel for Saugerties a little bit because they're going through a heck of a time now, several years now, that they just haven't really been able to get any numbers or build a real sturdy program there. And they have a new coaching regime this year. And Walk-Hill's on a roll. That's about one of the last teams you want to face when you're struggling is Walk-Hill. They can beat you so many ways. And
9 sacks.
9 sacks. I mean, their defense is really tough, and we know their offense is really good with Dombrowski playing quarterback. And so Walk-Hill's, same as it ever was with them. They're rolling. And, you'd like to see Saugerties try to get something together to make that class a little more parity, but it's just not there yet.
Also for Walk-Hill, the running back, Zach Slater, has done a nice job. We have talked about Nick Gomez at wide receiver. And again, they're another team where you're always going to get some quality linemen who are going to, mix it up for them.
Sure.
Warwick went to 4-0, 40-24 over Pine Bush. So Warwick will play at Roosevelt in their first AA Division II game. And Port came back to beat Poughkeepsie 41-34 for their first win. I thought that was impressive.
Yeah, very impressive. I mean, Port has to be the best 1-3 team in Section 9. And Warwick, we haven't talked about Brendan Bauer, really, a quarterback. He threw for 309 yards, 3 touchdowns, ran for a couple. This kid, obviously is a talent. And what's with Warwick and quarterbacks? It seems like every year they have a good one. And I was a little surprised Poughkeepsie by their start. I was expecting a little more from them. Of course, I wasn't expecting as much as you were from him. I think you had him like number 2 in your preseason rankings, something like that.
Try 5.
But anyway, Poughkeepsie, I just expect a little more from them. But very impressive. Port Jervis win that game as they did, and setting up a big week for Port coming up.
Yep, and we're going to move on in the podcast to this week's game. And where do we start? Thursday, this short week, as previously mentioned. 4 o'clock start at Goshen with Gus Lawson on the mic. Goshen will be hosting Port Jervis. Class A, Division II. Saugerties probably won't contend, but don't count them out in that division because no one's that good that you could just roll Saugerties. Then you have New Paltz. So this is a big game for both teams. Goshen coming off the Cornwall debacle. Hey, move forward. It's not a divisional game. Don't worry about it. And as far as that goes, I just hope they're not too banged up or anything like that. I'm still going to take Port Jervis. I just think they have more depth at running back. They've really shored up that offensive line coming into this year with the kids are a little more experienced. They've got some great running backs. And like I said, I saw Port hand it to Middletown for 3.5 quarters, and then it just fell apart. I was very impressed with Port, and I know some coaches are.
Port has a good team, like I've said it a million times, talking to Coach Polanis before the season, he was high on him, and coaches are typically pretty guarded about their team, and I sensed from him that he thought it was the best team he's had there. So they're a good team, and you know what? They could afford a few of the losses that they've had so far as long as they win these games, these league games that they need to win. And I really think it's them and New Paltz as the class of that division.
I think Newport would, if they could even send a statement and beat up on Goshen. I'm not saying I'll see that happen. And listen, Goshen, they're a work in progress. They put up 40 points against Monticello, so
sure did.
Spread offense. It's going to take some time, and you never know. Maybe they can go off.
I hope they do. I hope they make it close. I hope it's a good game for sure.
Are you going to be like a cheerleader?
I'm just hoping for a good quality football game. Okay, that's all. I don't want to see a 52-0 game. That's it.
Wallkill at Poughkeepsie, Class A, Division I. I said it before. Kind of dropped the ball on putting Poughkeepsie higher than Wallkill to begin the season. So hey,
at least you can admit to your mistakes. That's one of the things I like about you.
It was a terrible mistake. Wallkill, solid under first-year coach Rory Boyce. We wouldn't expect anything else. Former defensive coordinator. You got that tough offensive line. You got Zach Slater doing a great job at running back. So I'm going to take Wallkill. Poughkeepsie, they have some athletic skill players, so they put a big play up. It's 7-0. They put a big play up. Maybe it's 14-0. I don't see that happening, but I know Rory is obviously going to, be aware of that. But I'll take Wallkill in that game.
Hard not to.
We already have, Monroe's going to take out Kingston at home. Middletown, like I said, they beat Pine Bush. I would have never thought I was going to be at Monroe at Middletown in what would be week 6, but that's where I will likely be. I think I even saw some Middletown players at the Newburgh-Monroe game. To me, that said a lot because they're usually not out there, out and about,
Yep.
This Brian kid, I had someone tell me they think he might be the next Aaron Forbes. Young kid, big kid, basketball player. I like Middletown in this game, but Pine Bush is going to scrap. And I like Barnes. Watch out for that Marcus Barnes for Pine Bush. I like Middletown. I just don't want to see Middletown isn't too cocky. No time for swagger.
That's right.
It just could happen. I'm not saying they are, but kids, you know how they get.
No doubt.
If you come waltzing in to Fowler Field, you could get in trouble.
No, they better not come. They better not come in overconfident because if they do, Pine Bush is going to walk away with the win. I'll tell you that right now. Pine Bush isn't that far off from having a couple wins under its belt. Clean up their game. I know it's cliche. A few mistakes that are separating them from a couple wins. That's all it is. But if they clean up their game, they can play with just about anybody. So Middletown better not be overconfident in that game.
Well, keep in mind, Pine Bush, a few wins here and there. They're running out of time because they still haven't played Monroe and Newburgh.
No doubt about it. I mean, they're at the next level. Obviously, I don't think their A game, their triple A game could beat Monroe or Newburgh. But I think they could beat just about anybody else.
Are they the best 0-4 team in Section 9, Kevin? I know you told me about the best 1-3 team.
Well, looking at it just without any deep thought in the 0-4 crowd, they probably are, I'm sure.
Okay, another game, non-league, but it could be interesting. Newburgh, they're going to be hosting VC. And, if I'm if I'm Anthony DeBose, I'm going to be ready to go.
Well, yeah, I'd like to see that team with those two running backs in the lineup. I mean, that must be something real special with Forbes and DeBose back there.
They've had them once, so. But another thing to keep in mind is Newburgh-Middletown, I think, playing the last week of the season. So if Middletown loses to Monroe, it's going to come down. And I know Bill Bianco has a lot of respect for Middletown because we've talked before the season. Washingtonville hosting Minnesink. I like Minnesink.
Good game.
I like Minnesink, and the only thing is I still feel like this isn't going to be where one of those divisions where one team has 4 wins, second, third place 2, and fourth place 1. It's wild. I like Minnesink, but I could see Washingtonville winning this game, and there we go. It's going to get crazy.
I could too.
I'm going to take Minnesink because I really think Sessa. You got a game plan. You can't really kick or punt the ball to him. Moore was very impressive. I'll take Minnesink, and like I said, but who knows? But it's going to be a tough game.
I'm not underrating the Valley again. I've already done it once, maybe twice. And no, I'm taking Minnesink in that. I foolishly picked them to lose a game or two earlier in the year, and I think I was off by about 30 points total. So I'm going to quit while I'm behind.
Roosevelt hosts Warwick. Warwick, their first AA Division II game. I had told Warwick played.
That's a good game.
Warwick hasn't played. Warwick every game they've played since week 1. They've played a team that didn't have a win. It was St. Francis. Obviously, is 0-1. Goshen 0-1. Goshen was 0-1 last week. Pine Bush was winless. But hey, that said, Warwick hasn't lost a game. They've played well. Bauer, like I said, has played incredible. He's played really well.
I guess so. Sure, his numbers are amazing.
I just think Roosevelt, they're a Dutchess County team that we don't cover per se. I know Brian Bellino there, really nice guy, does a good job, and they're running, I think, some kind of like wing tee or something of that nature. I'll tell you what, I might take Roosevelt.
I mean, yeah, that's a good Washingtonville team that they beat. Holding Washingtonville to 7. I mean, and again, like I said, Warwick, they're not really battle tested. Although Pine Bush, again, is still my best 0-4 team in the section.
Yeah, that was Warwick deserves credit. Pine Bush is no.
Yeah, they got a battle from Pine Bush. And other than that, if you just look at the 1-loss records, they haven't played great teams. But
and listen, gut check. Warwick was up at Kingston the week before. They were tied. Hey, they made that game very comfortable. And Greg Sirico's done a lot of good job. He's recruited a lot of players. They lost like 30 seniors. So Warwick, a lot of naming. You lose 30 seniors, so many starters. Most teams are done.
Sure, no doubt about it.
They deserve the credit. And
that's a big time program. Yeah. Really big time program.
Highland 4-0 for the first time since 2009. The same year I think you broke into the business.
That'll be 1909. Actually.
Playing Rondout, coming off the Marlboro debacle. I like Highland in that game. Rondout, remember in the semis, we were both there. They pulled out that crazy They blew the lead.
It was crazy.
Highland took the lead. Rondout wins. Rondout coming off an 0-9 season goes to the championship. I like Highland.
Yeah, I'd
the old grizzle veteran Carl Relier calling the shots.
How about Carl? He's still winning with that program.
Yep.
Amazing.
So I'll take Highland in that game. A big game because Rondout, they're basically out of the playoffs, and Highland would go to 2-0 in that division and basically is in. One other game we should look at, Sullivan West, the one Saturday game in Class C, undefeated 4-0, playing Millbrook coming off that tough Highland loss. Sullivan West, they're always going to be good. With Ron Bauer, the longest tenured coach in Section 9. Actually, it'd probably be Fred Ahart. It's either him or Fred Ahart at Roscoe.
Yeah, I'd say, whenever you're talking about longest tenured coaches, Fred has a pretty good chance of being up near the top.
Fred Ahart entering his 72nd season.
Whether it's football, basketball.
For all the sports he's coached, he's got like 196 years. And he is a gentleman. I love Fred.
We all do.
So, obviously, so Sullivan West Millbrook, man, that's a tough game. I think Sullivan West has a little more depth. But and Millbrook coming off that Highland loss, it's a tough game. Also, you got to take into factor it's going to take Millbrook about 4.5 hours to get there.
Let's hope the bus doesn't break down.
At the old Woodstock.
Play that thing the next day.
You know what? I'm going to take Millbrook.
I'm thinking Millbrook too. I'm thinking they're going to have a big bounce back. Really tough loss. It's Highland at Highland. The Road Warriors of Millbrook. I think they're going to find a way to win that.
Okay. Well, we're going to wrap up here unless, Kevin, would you like to add anything?
No, that's about it. I mean, it's just that we're really in the thick of the season now, and we got some big games coming up. I mean, things are really starting to heat up. It's really becoming a lot of fun as we're, really not that far away from the sectional playoffs.
Seems like just yesterday we were getting our paper and notebooks ready for preseason camps. Here we are in week 5. It should be another good one. Thanks for joining us. This is Justin Rodriguez with Kevin Gleason signing off for the Varsity 845 Football Podcast. We'll see you soon.